Hi guys, welcome back. Welcome to another weekly reading. Today is admittedly Wednesday, January 21st. If you follow me on Instagram and maybe you just happened to see the note I left, the vibes just weren't there on Monday. And so I'm feeling the vibes today. As I mentioned on Monday, I was feeling it would come in on Wednesday, and today is Wednesday. And so we will be taking a look at the energies that are going on. And I'm going to file this under in YouTube in my playlist as being for the week of Monday, January 19th to Sunday, January 25th. However, 2026. However, you guys know what it is. These are timeless readings, they are signless. And in fact, you don't actually have to be watching the videos at the time that I release them for the messages to be for you or to be about you in some way or related to you in some way, whether or not you're able to perceive of its relationship at that time. I also want to mention that if you've been following my channel, thanks again, welcome back. Then you may well know that recently we've been doing a lot of channeling in the form of lectures, right? So I'm pretty much a channel, and primarily my channel is dedicated to teaching. So teaching, healing, motivating, those are the three things that my angel said to me many, many years ago, probably over a decade now, that I would be doing, even though I was not even remotely even close to starting and doing these things. Yeah, well over a decade, actually, now that I think about it. Anyway, oh yes, as I look outside, I definitely see energy is coming in today. We've got a lot to talk about today. So yes, so let me back it up a bit. So if you've been following my channel recently, then just to catch you up to speed, then you know that we have been going through, and when I say we, I mean whoever these messages are for, whether or not they choose to connect with the messages through my channel, right? Remember, whatever God has, or the Most High, whatever term you choose to use, whatever information or energies are designed for you to receive can come through on the side of a bus. You can walk through a park and, have a breakthrough by watching ants on a tree. Always remember that there's no need for a go-between between you and anybody else. However, that being said, there are heavenly helpers, so to speak, which I would like to say I am one. I am one. Let me put that out there. But there are heavenly helpers, so to speak, who are here to be of divine assistance for you, especially at this age. Notice I have the Age of Aquarius book here because they've been breathing down my neck to talk about it. I'm talking about other things, right? I'm supposed to be also talking about the difference between ultimate reality and perceived reality, which we will jump into today, please God. um if you know that, because that's what I wanted to talk about last week. However, something else came through and we have to respect whatever comes through at the time. Also, yeah, so at this time in this age of Aquarius, there are many, many people who are awakening to, of course, be a part of their own great awakening. The great awakening, actually, simplistically, just referring to that process. It's a very long-term process, millions of years, many lifetimes, right? But it's just a process of your own, what should I say without using the word awakening, your own recognition once again of your what? Divine identity, your origin, what you are, who you are, right? So down here, you don't have full consciousness of that. Nobody does, because it is necessary for us to be in a partial state of awareness. Some people may call it the forgetting, the veil, or whatever that is. And there are varying degrees of that. And that has a lot to do with where you are along your spiritual journey and how much consciousness of self you have reclaimed again. But it's just one long process and one long, beautiful unfolding process, a process of self discovery where you are awakening to more and more recognition of who you are, your true identity. And as you've noticed recently, we have been beating the drum hard that the more time you spend in the I am not, meaning equating yourself with what you are not, buying into false definitions and labels that have been placed upon you, I would argue by some focus group somewhere out in some company corporate office, right? And that you've bought into, and that is can be quite literal, be meant in a literal sense as well. The more that you identify yourself with that, you are actually communicating to the universe, this is my I am, this is my personal identity. I am, I am, I am, I am. Are you a lovely? I'm going to put that in there. Youthful. I changed it from young to youthful. I'm going to put that in there. Black woman of the age, blah, 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 living in this state and this city and with this level of awareness and education and blah, 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 and drives this car. Is that you? Who dresses this way? Is that even you? Are those just symbols that you've been sold so that you can buy more things and so that you can vote in certain ways, so that you can fight in certain wars, so that you can just think, group think, and it's like Pavlov, it's very Pavlovian. We tell you what you are, and then we create the conditions around you, including the evidence for you to see what we told you you are outside of you mirrored back to you, and so therefore you'll believe it. And we'll even add music to that, music of the age and all of that. And then guess what, when we do this, you jump and you comply, right? And that all of that is, we understand, is just part of the process of awakening. For many people, you're asleep until you start to question, right? And even questioning brings in certain defenses that can be very upheaving for people in their life. But along your spiritual journey, in other words, along your journey to awakening to what your true definition of self, you're going to have to recognize that none of that is you. And it can be a very shaky space to be in. We often refer to that as the dark night of the soul, because not only does it shift your mindset often abruptly, but we understand now, if you follow this channel, that whatever is going on in your mental space, your belief system will precipitate downward and manifest into your physicality in terms of the body, in terms of the world you see around you, the circumstances. All right, I'm going to take a quick pause. I've got to go retrieve something really quickly at the door. 1 second. Oh, no, delivery. But also, I am expecting delivery. 1 second. Okay, and I'm back. Thank you guys for waiting that 1 second of your life. Isn't that funny how time works that way, right? For you, as you observe what I'm creating in this moment, it only took 1 second. For me, it took quite a few minutes. Now, if you would like to catch up and take a few minutes for yourself, I would invite you to go ahead and get your hot beverage, because I actually forgot to um, I was going to say pour mine, but I heard the word upgrade mine. So here we go. Also, before we jump back into the message, I do want to say thank you. Oh, wow, to our team here. And actually, if you heard my voice change a little bit, there's an energy there that was part of that, what I just said. So thank you so much. And I perceive of them being here. So just a reminder, you guys, that when we do come to have these sessions and when your channelers are connecting and whatnot, you know, there are other lovely energies in attendance, and we thank them. Isn't that wonderful? Multi-dimensional work. All right. So anyway, back to what I was saying. Yes, so now is a very, very special time in the, I guess we can say, in the ages of mankind, where, and also Earth history, where we are stepping into what we call the age of Aquarius. Ding! And it is a very, very interesting and awesome and new age. And actually, we're on the brink. We're in that tender little tenderoni spot that's between the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius. So in a sense, yes, we are contending with a lot of Aquarian ideologies, a lot of Aquarian manifestations. And, we're seeing new innovations in all sectors of society. We're seeing a lot of technology. We're seeing all sorts of things. And those are just the low-hanging fruit of Aquarius energy. But Aquarius energy carries even stronger energies and frequencies and things that we would experience here on this planet as manifestations. And those manifestations, some of them may be concepts that at this point are still for us in the realm of the inconceivable. You know, that category, that fourth category that we can affectionately refer to as what you don't know, right? if you don't, if there's something that exists that you don't know, that you don't know exists, that is literally the realm of inconceivability. You cannot conceive of it quite yet, right? And that's understandable, because in this realm of perception, you don't know anything. Nobody knows anything. It's impossible. But we can perceive to the best of our abilities, right? And of course, we've kind of touched upon perception in the past. We'll try and do a little bit more today. But before I jump in and really start to bring, look, see, it's like, wait, before we get in, I do want to tell you a message that came through just before I started this video for you guys. And I'm going to read it. It's literally me just receiving the transmission and writing. So please forgive any grammar points and just whatever. I'm practicing as your resident Capricorn energy here, practicing to lean into the imperfect. Okay. So anyway, here's what I wrote. So now is the time for those who are consciously able to hold the vision of the world as already being restored and established in greater love. So now, and I'll explain what those mean, right? What the message means when I say it. So what that basically means is that, yes, on this planet, obviously there are beings who, whatever term you want to say, whether it's they have the liberty, they have the leisure, they have the safety, they have the economic wherewithal, they have the education, whatever you want to call it, that's all your own mind, right? But if you are in a position where you can wield your faculties in a way that you can consciously direct your mindset somewhere, then this is an opportunity for you, right? So now is the time for those who are consciously able to hold a vision of the world as already being restored. That basically means, hey, if you're available and you've got enough of a wielding over your mind and you're not contending with things that would impede upon that ability, then whatever that is, then we ask you to consider holding the vision of this world, this earth, as being already restored to what? To what it could be, to what it is, to something better than what you're seeing outside in your world right now. Whether that's outside in your own house, outside of you is what I'm saying, whether it's in your own house, mirrored back to you in the form of people in your life, whether it is what you see on TV, whether it is what you're aware of in your community, whatever this is, right? We always need somebody to anchor in vision. So we're calling for visionaries right now. Now, if you followed my channel, if you've been following my channel, then you know a couple I don't remember, a couple videos ago, we talked about the idea that a lot of people who are becoming active right now are people that we can refer to as builders, right? So in this new earth construction, which has been going on for a long time, this is not just a wow, 21st century thing, right? And when I say new earth, always I want you to remember that I'm talking to you at a certain level of consciousness from a certain level of consciousness. So terms like new earth is just a discursive placeholder, because when we understand time, we understand it's part of perception. So if you view it from a certain level of consciousness, you'll say, oh, new earth, and you'll see us from moving from old earth onto new earth. When you go higher in the field, then you realize, oh, there's not just one earth. There are many versions of Earth, because there's no such thing as linear time. And then when you go even higher, you start to realize, oh, this world that we're even seeing is, or any of the versions aren't real anyway. And then at the highest, you're like, what Earth? You see what I mean? So I just want to remind you guys that we're having a discussion along a spectrum of perception. And right now we're just having a conversation at the spectrum of perception, where we're like, oh, for the sake of talking, we're considering this old world as an old world consciousness, right? So the guides are throwing in the word consciousness here, and that's a bit of a correction for us at this mindset, because a lot of people say, oh, we're moving to new earth and 5D and this and that. But, again, that's a different conversation, because to be even beyond the 3D, you're now no longer in the realm of physicality. So we're now having a multidimensional conversation. So long story short, I'm trying to accommodate the multidimensionality that you are. Some of you will be like, oh, okay, I get it. And some of you may not, right? And it's fine, but this is a conversation that we're having with you at different levels of the field. So I'll do my best to just like keep it as conscious of that, but effective. So when we're talking about moving into new earth, we're basically just saying, hey, we're shifting consciousness from a lower tiered state of consciousness where there's more false perception that's going on. False perception is basically that you don't have clear vision of what is around you. You don't have a clear vision of yourself, who other people are in your life, and what it is that you're seeing. And that is simply because you've forgotten what you are. Now, we've talked about this a lot, that you will see according to what you believe to be true. And if you're not aware of what your true identity is, right, which we've talked about quite often, you will mistakenly equate yourself with, identify yourself with, harbor a self-definition of, harbor a self-concept as what you're not, right? And those are those labels. And so when you, as a sovereign co-creator being made in the image and likeness of the creator, meaning you have the ability to create and you're sovereign and you have a certain degree of free will, you have free will, but of course it's expressed differently at this level of consciousness. Again, multidimensional awareness and conversation. Free will expresses differently at different levels of the field. But down here, free will expresses in a certain way, right? But if you are constantly identifying with what you're not, and basically if you're not identifying with what you are because you've forgotten it, then the question is, well, what have you latched onto? You've latched onto something that has been fed into your consciousness. So what is it? What's your race? What's your gender? What's your economic state? And sorry, I'm listening to the guides. And etc. Right? When you do that, all you do is you manifest around you conditions to give back to you what you as a sovereign co-creator being has called for. And so therefore, when we talk about shifting consciousness into higher states of being, we're actually working together individually and as a collective to shift the definition of self. So this is why any healing work that you do with high interdimensional beings, with higher dimensional beings and your higher self and all of that, if they're really in that vein of love and stuff, they're not trying to get you to make magic anywhere or do certain things or manipulate the earth and the skies and the whatever, all that. All they're trying to do is to get you to remember what you are, because they understand from their level of perception, which is pretty high, above all that other machination stuff, they understand that your true power lies in your ability to remember what you are. Because when you remember what you remember what you are entitled to, what you can call in for yourself, right? And then when you remember that, then you can start to see where your limitations are in your world. Well, hey, if I'm this, then why am I being limited by that? Oh, I'm being limited by this, that law or that idea or whatever, that principle or whatever, because I thought I was a victim, for example, or I thought I was a poor person, or I thought I was a horrible woman because I couldn't have children, or I thought I was an ingrate because I'm in between jobs and I'm one brink away from homeless, whatever. You're buying into false definitions, which you, as a sovereign being, are just generating limitations for yourself because of. So anyone who's worth their salt that wants to help you to unleash and step into your true consciousness, which is divine consciousness, which is the I am consciousness, which is God consciousness, and that is not arrogance, that is a recognition that you share familiarity with your creator, right? When you recognize that and you truly start to live within and from that self definition, you're no longer creating in manifested form limitations around yourself to experience a limited world. And that's because you are the key, you're the lock and the key. What you believe is what comes to pass in the world around you. So if you are here watching this channel, then right now I would say that you are part of you are being invited, and you knew this, and again, it's open to anybody who is interested. You're being invited to work on yourself so that you can remember what you are, step into higher self-concept, into your I am consciousness, so that you can see reality better, so you can have more true perception of what is. If you've just been cheated on your whole life, you're really going to struggle to see good partners around, good men and women around for you to, you're like, all men are horrible, all women are horrible, but that's your own cage, because you're making a self concept about yourself. And maybe you haven't recognized, I'm unlovable, I'm a loser. It must be true because no one sticks around. Everybody cheats on me. But Spirit is saying that's not true. Your work is to get out of that false mindset and to reconnect with what you are. The divine consciousness within you cannot be those things that you just listed and that you've been working with in your background. Those are levels of egoic consciousness, and they're not able to create anything. They just make a prison around you. And so once you really start to beat it into yourself, not beat it into yourself, but cultivate a daily practice of reinforcing your knowing of your value and your worth, you start to see things change. When you look out into the world, you're not like, oh, okay, I see this. I see that it just sprung into my mind to go back into that old, idea of something's wrong with me, but that can't be true. Mm-mm. That gets stronger in you. That can't be true. Oh, hold up, I'm gonna let you finish, everybody else. But it can't be true. There's a problem here because I know what's true. And I understand that what I see outside of me is not to be relied upon. It's just a manifestation of an old consciousness. And so if there's a mismatch between my glorious self that I know myself to be and what it is that I'm seeing and experiencing in this world, then I know that I've got to go back inward and fix some type of self-definition that I'm using. Okay, you've got to go back into your core belief system, and you can work with core belief therapy and or journaling or just sitting down and thinking. But anyway, so Spirit is saying that, and if you've been following this channel, then you know that we've been talking about this for quite some time, where you've been asked to shift your identity and now understand yourself as divine consciousness, right? Learn to distinguish yourself from what you are not. And once you do that, you're better able to see what Spirit is handing to us for the sake of humanity. And that's where we come in with this idea of new earth consciousness. New earth consciousness, just to, I guess, give you a vision here, is the idea of building a higher dimensional, higher frequency, higher vibrational, more loving, more true perception world than we currently see around you, see around. I was gonna say see around us, but they said you, so maybe I don't know what I'm seeing, but let's go. Right, and so that's what it means to be asked to hold a frequency. But in order to be able to hold a frequency, to hold a vision, you've got to be able to see it first. And so, as you step more into what you truly are and understanding your self definition and really cultivating that, the more you are unimpeding your ability to see. And then Spirit can deliver to you what is already here, simply not because you're chosen, not because you're better than anyone else, not because you're more humble, not because you've had this lifetime, this education, that amount of money, this amount of teeth in your head. No, that was very specific. Okay. But simply because, say it with me, we say it all the time on this channel, it's a frequency thing. Can you align with the frequency? If you can get to the ah, which is what the ah is, that's a frequency of, the energy that is trying to be brought through, and you can ah, 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 it's a vibrational match, and you can hold that frequency And the mastery, as we've been talking about a lot, comes in the ability to hold the frequency. We've heard this beautifully said, being a flame holder. Can you hold the flame? You know, in this age of Aquarius, when we start to see technology really come in, we might start hearing things. Can you hold the code, right? The God code. We've been hearing a lot about that. Oh, Greg Braden, low-key crush, low-key crushing. Sorry. Forgive me, okay? That's been a crush for a couple decades, but leave me be, guys. Allow it, as they say in British slang. Just allow it. And also, let's take a sip on that note. The emotion code, right? All of these things you'll hear about codes, right? The gene keys, all this stuff, but it's just frequency. Can you align with it? If I wanted to be super manipulative to you guys or to anyone, which I don't, because like you girls just have other things to do, right? But if I wanted to, and this is what marketers know everywhere. This is what companies know everywhere. Focus groups, think groups, all these, they know this. Or just your neighborhood narcissist or neighborhood family member who's just super controlling and manipulative. Or maybe you, if that's who you are, God bless, right? All we need to do is to capture your interest. Do I have your interest? Well, okay. And how you go about building interest in for somebody, again, easy. If you notice their vices, if you notice their vices, pride, you sell them on significance. Oh, well, you're super special. You are the only one who can, and because the blah, blah, and you were chosen, and that spiritual significance or just significance in general. We see it all the time. Wow, look at you. Look at your hair color. Look at your skin color. Wow, look at your age. Wow, look at you, talk so pretty. Wow, you are you're gonna be a star. So if you carry pride as your vice, that's how we're gonna get your interest. If you carry what else? Lust as your vice, we can get you in some other way, right? We can come in and come all cute and dolled up and sit next to you, say the right words, and neg you, as they say, dating term, which is to tell you negative things about yourself, so that to play on your mommy daddy issues, so you can get hooked in through your trauma and abuse patterning, right? If your vice is greed, oh, easy. Hey, you want to come work for us? You're going to make so and so by this age. When you're walking down the street, you'll be driving down the street in a big time car when people twice your age are still walking, all sorts of stuff. So you see how it goes. It's easy. Do I have your interest? So always ask, who's talking to me? Number one, what is their language? And this is why I tell you guys straight up, listen, take what you want from here, leave the rest. Keep it neutral. That's all it is. It's all about neutral, because when you are having all these emotional things, your vices, your trauma, again, another one, if you're working on a self-concept, we were just looking at some vices, right? But if you're working, let's use a self-concept as an example of a victim consciousness, because yes, you were victimized and heinously maybe on this planet and multiple lifetimes, so much so that now it's patterned into your behavior, and it even hits your cortisols in a certain way, your cortisols, your hormones way. Now you're just, whether you're aware of it or not, seeking it out. This is why people doom scroll, for example, right? Or look for bad partners, and then they're like, but I'm not looking for this is not what I want. But you hear people say it often. Oh, but there's a good guy, Marvin is good. I don't know Marvin, but somebody, Marvin's great. Yeah, but he's boring. Yeah, that's right, because he doesn't hit your trauma button the way that the victim consciousness, the game, you're not getting the fix that you need to get back into the destructive pattern, right? So if you have a self-destructive pattern like your victim consciousness, and we want to interest you, now we'll buy you in, and buy is such the word, we will lure you in a way that your role in our storytelling is that you get to be a victim. Look what they did to you. How dare they? They didn't recognize what you were, mixing it with the spiritual significance. You were better than them. And they couldn't recognize it because you were so gentle, so innocent, so this and that. And look what happened. Come, let me soothe you. Let me whatever. Let me give you the chance you never had. All of that. It's the same story. We want you to buy this. We want you to do this. We want you to believe this. So that when we do that, you immediately in a Pavlovian sense, react in this way that we have also told you. If you do programming, you'll understand interactions and all of this, and even, just basic email automation, right? So, but obviously we know this in terms of, Pavlov and behaviorist theory. So long story short, you must be aware of what you believe yourself to be, because people who are trained to see you and want to do something, like they are manipulative, they want to have something and they don't want to do it themselves for whatever reason, it's easy to get you once they see what you're about. And then they could sell you, do I have your interest? And then you're like, yes, I do. Yes, you do. And then they pull you in. And then it's anyone's game from then on. And so Spirit is asking you to remember that when you are being asked to hold frequencies, hold visions for things, you have to be in a level of consciousness and self-worthiness and awareness of your self-worth that makes you as impenetrable as possible, right? Really, really, this is what we call psychic self-defense. It's psychic self-defense 101. And that's why Spirit is saying, when you remember what you are, all this other noise is just recognized as noise. It's not holding command over you because your wounds still need soothing. So somebody has to show up to you as this savior or rescuer or validator or person who sees, I see you, right? And this is understandable. We have these needs. But that's why you have to be very careful when you're vetting people to help you to heal. That's why you have to be very careful with people when you're looking for a job. And if there's a lot of money involved, for example, don't let them, muck you about. It all starts with you, though. You're the steward. And so in this day and age where I want to say anything goes, literally, if you were following this channel a couple years ago, I don't remember if it's 2021, 2022, but Spirit, what did they say? They said I think they said something like, come next year. I think it was like November, December of 2021, 2022, or 2023. They said, listen, you have to start getting in touch with the heart chakra. Do you remember, guys, if you followed me back then? And the reason they said that, they said the reason why is because soon you will not be able to tell reality from unreality. We understand that. What's real is love. Only love is real. A Course in Miracles says that before you even open the book. Just look in the beginning. It's like, oh, and then, oh, chapter 1, right? Only love is real. And then the book proceeds to train your mind to see that, right? And we all have heard that saying before, only love is real. If your heart chakra isn't even able to align with love and feel that frequency and stuff, you're falling for everything. Because on this planet, everything has form, whether it's real or not real. Look, life, confront your childhood trauma sooner than later. What is not healed now will be passed on to the next, right? So they were saying that sooner or later you will not be able to tell the difference. And we see that when we look online, we see so much fakeness. You're seeing a lot of fake posts, a lot of fake people, a lot of this, they're computer generated and there's no label for it. You don't even know. In our food, there's fake meat, bioengineered meat. You wouldn't even know that if you don't know how to read labels, if you're not keeping up with agribusiness and the way that labeling laws are going, for example. It's crazy. And so Spirit is asking you to be an avid consumer of what is in your best interest. And you can't know what is in your best interest if you don't know what? Thyself. And so therefore, it all starts, continues, and ends with the most appropriate and most life-affirming self-definition slash self-concept slash self-identity slash self-definition, whatever these terms are, of yourself. Who you believe yourself to be will determine what you are vulnerable to. It will determine what you think you're seeing out in the world. It will determine what you think you're feeling. It'll determine what you think you're thinking. It'll determine what you think your reaction is and why. It'll determine how others see you. It'll determine so much, down to the molecular structure of what is around you in this holographic reality. And so when spirit says, hey, we're here to help make the world a better place in many ways that, whatever. And the way that we are trying to do that is by working from the energetic into the physical, because that's the only way it can be. We don't care so much about the physical. By the time the physical occurs, it has already happened in the non-physical. And so when spirit is asking you to work in higher frequencies and in the non-physical, even whether you do it through your mind, whether you're sitting in some way, I don't know, then they're asking you to be present in the here and now, which is a non-physical space. They're asking you to work with self-definition in a way so that you can be a divine conduit for higher frequencies and this new consciousness, this higher level consciousness that is built upon love and integration and connection, and not in some weird new world, one world order and all that stuff. No, this is not about that. We understand that from higher levels of perspective, there is only one, but down here we experience it as if there are many. And so because the truth is there's only one self, perceiving / dreaming of many, there's only one self, then we understand that the only way to actually do anything in this world or anywhere is to do what? Inside you. So it's never going to be there. You might find a lot of new policies and politics starting to appeal to this idea of, hey, everybody, we're all in this together. Be careful with that. Instead, you understand that I love myself. I give to myself. I treat myself in a life-affirming way. I cultivate high value within myself. And through doing that, do I introduce change in the only place it can actually be, which is in my own mindset. And that will shift the vibration that I, as the beacon, as the spark of the divine, emit outward. And that is what shifts the molecules around me. That is what that's what compels me to take a right down this street and find $20 on the floor rather than to take a left down the street and get stuck in traffic. Right? We don't know this. It's sliding doors, all right? We don't know the many potentials, which people refer to as timelines, but it's just many potentials that you as the one can call into your now moment to experience. But when you are being asked to usher in a new world, a higher level of consciousness, it's just as Mahatma Gandhi, God bless, said, be the change you wish to see in the world. That's it. So if you stay stuck focusing so much on what everybody else is doing, and you got to police it, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do that, and da-da-da, and you're not doing anything inside you, you're not doing much. You're just managing stuff outside. It's like juggling. But if you want to be in service and create real structural change, you've got to go inward, become that conduit for frequencies of love and creative energy that can actually introduce real and meaningful change on this planet to flow through you. Otherwise, you're just stuck in the I am not, and you're not actually receiving that creative energy flowing through you to make anything that is of substance that can be viewed on every level of the field. And it's very easy to get you off your path, to have you stuck in some suffering ideas and feelings and whatnot. And so when spirit says, and these are things that used to be kept behind doors, right? Whether in these mystery schools and whatnot, simply because of the level of discipline, mental discipline that kind of comes with it, and knowing thyself and all of that. But when spirit says, hey, do you want to come build with us? Do you want to come contribute to a higher frequency lifestyle for all? It always necessarily starts with getting to know yourself so that you can understand what your core beliefs are, understand where you need soothing, understand how that location that you need soothing can make you vulnerable, but also to understand how it can bring you into places of strength, maybe to build upon empathy, right? The wounded healer shouldn't be wounded forever. The wounded healer must come to a place where they're able to recognize themselves, understand their thoughts and everything that lead to this feeling of being wounded, and to create for themselves the conditions that allow them to transcend that. And then what? Be available for others so that they can see those people where they are and to help bring them to where they now are. So when you are working with spirit at divine levels of consciousness, we're asking you to step into more of your true identity. And that true identity is your divine consciousness. It's not your ego. It's not any of those other things we talked about, those labels that the world has given you to chop people up and keep them separate. No, it's divine consciousness. It's oneness with all of creation. It is the understanding that you shift first and then you allow the energies of your own divine consciousness to flow through you. And that is natural. That is the natural factory settings that you are. And that's when you realize, I don't have to lift the finger. I'm moved. I'm in the zone. And we understand that a lot of sports players, they're like, wow, when I'm really on that court and I'm in my zone, I'm just flowing. I'm scoring. I'm this, that. That's the natural state of being. It's flow state because you're allowing yourself to flow naturally. What is yourself? Universal energy. When you entertain what you're not, you create blockages to what? Your own self, the universal energy, source energy, creator energy, God energy, divine energy. You block it from being able to flow through you. And just like in any physical body, what happens when you have a blockage and the blood isn't able to flow there? We start to see breakdown. We see atrophy, right? Because we need blood in order to keep life going. You need your chi, you need your universal energy to flow through you in order to keep yourself going. And then on top of that, what is it that you do on this planet? You create. Because you are a creator being, it is your natural state of expression to create. So if you were to be asked from a higher level of perspective, hey, what does it mean to be alive? Well, the answer is simply, I create. Because to create is to extend your energy, that life affirming substance that cannot be found in what is not created by source. It's not in the I am not, it's in the I am, because I am is the same as the creator. It's a body, it's an entity, it's spirit. And so there's a substance there. And when you are in your divine consciousness, meaning you are loving yourself, you're self-accepting, you're doing your best, the energy is flowing into you. And like a glass, as we've talked about before, it's able to flow through you because you're not thinking all these weird thoughts, feeling all these weird feelings, getting all het up, all that to block the energy. And once it's able to flow through you, now you are a teacher, you can say. You're a channel, you're a conduit, you're functioning properly. And when others see that and perceive that and feel it energetically, because they're going to feel it energetically before becoming conscious of it, that's how they end up in the same elevator as you, for example, or even though you guys never talked, right? Or even interact in the physical. But an exchange is occurring. When you embody, this is embodiment of the divine consciousness. This is what it means to walk the planet as your God self. It's simple. You allow for the conditions for you to receive yourself. But when you embody that frequency, you're a beacon. And energies are drawn towards you. And we talked about this before. If they're ready to open up and receive that self, because you're one. So what they're seeing in you is your own self. When they're ready to receive it, I just saw this guy, cute. Ah, then what we can say is that they've been inspired. Inspiration, the spirit comes in, right? They've been inspired. So they were ready to be inspired though. And now they're what are they going to do? They're opening up to their own, which is yours too, because we're all one self. We just have this false belief that we're separate, right? They are now opening up and they're on their awakening. And if they're not ready for that yet, because they're still kind of too attracted to the I am not, we saw that example. God sends a good guy, girl doesn't want guy because he's too boring, right? She prefers the denser, more exciting, more thrilling, more dispassionate, disconnected, right? Kind of guy with an edge, right? Then guess what? She's not going to be inspired in that moment. She's going to be turned off from it. I don't want it. I want something else. And we all have this struggle around certain things because we're still in a mindset where we believe certain things have more value than others. Some people will value their car over their sofa, for example. We'll say, oh, this is more valuable than that, whatever. So if something comes to them that they have to act on, if it's about the car, they'd pay more attention. They'd be more likely to spend money to learn about something than if it's about their sofa, right? So as long as we have these different value systems and we value things as being more or less valuable, and that changes, by the way, based on our mood sometimes, then our all that's shifting is our openness to receiving God's love, God's light, wisdom, the truth, whatever you want to say, inspiration. And this is why we have this internal conflict inside. This is why we see, for example, wow, this person is is an innovator. They're an amazing entrepreneur when it comes to business and blah blah blah. But good Lord, are they horrible when it comes to their family life. They can't take care of a family if God strapped it to them. You know, all their kids hate them. The wife or the husband just doesn't even want any part, right? Now, why is this person struggling in these two areas of their life? They're phenomenal in one and they're dismal in the other. That's because of some definition that they're working with, and they have valued things differently. So when spirit comes through, come through spirit, when spirit comes through, it's able to flow easily into their entrepreneur life. There is less blockage there for this person because they value it in a certain way. They don't have as many hang-ups or negative associations that they've built up over time and space. They don't have as much trauma. And so they experience more flow. And so that part of their life, their work life, their career life can flow. But they when it comes to the family life, for example, their wife and or husband and their children and their mothers and all that, they may have a lot of blockages in there because of definitions and ideas that they're carrying that they may not even be aware of, or they may, right? Some core belief stuff. There's more healing that needs to go there. So when the flow of love is and light and source and God and whatever you want to call it, it's wisdom, it's all that is, universal energy, when it's trying to flow through this person's mind and their body and their energy fields and all that, it's actively blocked. And so it's experienced by this person as discomfort, turmoil, fight, anguish, distortion. They're not seeing well. They're not seeing properly in their family. They're not loving enough. They're not giving enough. They don't know how to be vulnerable. They may not feel safe there, all sorts of stuff. And so you have to see, it's very, very important to work on the self because you are the bridge through which energies can flow. If God wants to use your skills to help people by having you start an NPO, even if it doesn't get to be this huge NPO, nonprofit organization, or maybe it does, right? But if God says you have skills, you have what I know these certain people, because God knows who they're sending you to, the contracts, the soul contracts. These people could really work with you because you had this past and you could really speak to them and heal them and know in a way better than others. So we want you there. We want you to start an NPO at age 56, for example. And who's we saying that? It's your higher self. It is you. You at a higher level of the field is talking to you down here. Same, it's just you, right? And of course, you have your spirit team and everybody and God and everyone here to assist you, and your happy helpers like me, hi, right? But that's where you are being pushed, because we know you could be great there. We know, and you're going to save lives there, whether you are ever aware of it or not. But it's very often that the same areas where we are meant to shine and meant to heal and restore the flow of love are the areas that we still struggle to access for ourselves. So let's say you're supposed to start an NPO, but you struggle with abundance. How are you going to bring in the finances that spirit is like sending your way so that you can get your licenses, so that you can get your training, so that you can hire your employees, so that you can pay yourself, so that you can create the physical location and conditions and the education, the scholarships for those souls that spirit wants you to work with and to matriculate through your program, right? So when we talk about healing the self, it is the crux of everything. So never, never, never buy into anybody who wants to teach you all about manipulating the outside world without first connecting with yourself, right? You have to heal the self and create the conditions for yourself to be a conduit for these energies to flow through. Otherwise, they're going to be hitting your blockages inside. They may not even express properly. You may drive yourself mad. You'll be frustrated. Why can't I just get a grant? Why doesn't anyone want to donate? And everybody's so stingy, and the world is just a horrible place right now. Nobody cares. And then if you've got racial ideas also, nobody cares about Black people and or Asian people or white people or just whatever people, and that's why they're not giving. That's what it is, and all sorts of stuff. And I saw the way somebody side-eyed me. It must be because I'm a woman and I have short hair, and they have thoughts about me and my sexuality and just whatever, right? Whatever is going on inside it you have to come back to yourself and look at what's going on. What's going on with you? Because spirit said, I want you here to open this NPO because you're the perfect person for the job. You are divinely orchestrated in that area. And when spirit selects you for something, that means they will pay for everything. Doors will open, all sorts of things. And so when you're finding closed doors, when you're finding all sorts of stuff, it's not an invitation to give up, because you may be frustrating yourself so much so with all those ideas, like, for example, what I just said, all those ideas we just said, whereas, oh, it must be this, it must be that. You're frustrating your own self because of displaced attention. And then you may give up on the dream altogether. And then what's even crazier is you're going to be like, well, I had this dream, but God must not have thought I was the right one for it. God only blesses certain people. Now, you may not even be, or even worse, if you're like, God must be punishing me because I didn't do A, B, C, and D. And so therefore now my skills, my abilities have been taken away and it's been given to someone else, and all sorts of madness. This is madness, guys. But these are real thoughts and feelings that we feel, but they're all baseless. And that's why it's important to heal thyself. Remember what you are. Because when you remember what you are, let's just shorten it and say child of God, right? But we always say you are a spark of the divine. You are literally an aspect of God made in its image and likeness. That's what you are. When you remember what you are, creative, sovereign, multidimensional. You're multidimensional because you're a created aspect. And anything that is created by the creator exists on every level of the field, exists in every density, exists in every dimension. That's why you are multidimensional. Whereas these I am not and all these labels and all these things, they can't even exist in the next culture. When we fly a plane 2 hours away to another country, it doesn't exist there. What's it going to do in the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth dimension? It's not there. So if you spend your whole life messing around with these false ideas and putting yourself in a box and then developing depression and all of that because of all of this, that's working in your background, your CACHE, your cache, if we want to put it into the terms of technology, which is the age we're in, right? Every age we go to, the language changes, right? So now we can talk about spiritual principles in the form of technological words. Wow, we're healing, we're downloading, right? All these codes and these, it's all the same thing though. So spirit is, I guess the main point that we're driving home is you must understand yourself, know thyself. When you start to step into greater self-awareness, it's along your spiritual journey of what? Remembering yourself. You got to look at what's going on under the hood. When you start doing that, you really start to realize, oh, all that stuff that I was blaming other people for, all those ideas I was making about the world, all those movements I just joined blindly with other people who didn't even sit down to meditate or think about anything beyond their desire to be a victim or their inability, understandable inability to get past something that they still haven't even recognized they're carrying. If you have a chance to sprint ahead and make a difference that's real and lasting for yourself, thereby also for other people, do it. Everybody has this ability to do it. But again, if you are too occupied, understandably, all understandably. So that's why when the call goes out to people, it's like, hey, it's going to go out to everybody. There's no chosen anybody. It's just, if you're interested, can I interest you in being of assistance? And if so, you must start with yourself first. And that's why you'll find that service workers, for lack of a better word, those who sign up to be of service, whether on the other side or here, it's usually it's usually and situation. They must heal first, heal their perceptions, take personal responsibility, step into greater agency, understand what is real and what is not. When you start to remember what you are, you remember what you're entitled to. And that alone is going to help you to dispel the falseness that's around you. And so when you see people coming to you to tell you about what you are and use all these labels, you immediately identify what they are. And it's not a judgmental way. It's just, hey, they are seeing me in a way that is out of alignment with what I am. And so therefore, I understand that I'm going to have to go my own way on this. It doesn't mean you have to cut them off. It just means you no longer buy into their view of reality. So when that same person who sees you as a certain way, that is out of alignment with what the truth of you is, when they start telling you about the world they see and, oh, the world is this and that, boop, boop, and I saw this earlier, understand that they're observing things that are occurring outside, but they're putting their narrative onto it. And when we put our narrative onto things, and that narrative is distorted by pain and unrecognized self, which go hand in hand, then we can trust that that person and us, if we're the one doing it, we're not in a position to entertain real solutions. We are most likely looking to quell something inside. Well, I want to be heard because blah, 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 blah. And so, right? As opposed to, wow, I'm seeing stuff go on. I'm noticing that this is the story I'm telling. I'm noticing these are the thoughts that go along with that story. I'm noticing these are the feelings that I'm feeling in alignment. I'm noticing that these are the gut reactions that I want to do. I'm noticing that I have a chance to stop and pause and separate myself, disconnect, stay back. I don't have to talk about something all the time. I don't have to jump in some defense. I don't have to. First, I need to pull back, put out the fire that is burning in my belly because I've had something inside of me react to that outside. It shows my vulnerability. If I'm vulnerable to what I think I'm seeing, then I've got to put out the fire here first so that I can have a clear vision, a firm foundation of self, a better view on what is occurring. And then because of that, I'm more amenable and receptive to solutions. And these solutions are coming from higher frequencies. When I shift myself higher, and now I'm no, I'm a vibrational match to these higher frequencies, and those frequencies give me the solutions. And the solutions that I receive may be completely out of alignment with what all these other people are thinking is needed because they can't see. They can't see anything beyond themselves. But when we work with higher frequencies, literally those frequencies are coming from higher perspectives. So they can see everything beneath there and they can move you to administer, right? All of a sudden, different decisions are being made. Oh, wow, the world is moving, for example, in AI first. Wow, I'm a leading company. Wow, this is an opportunity to capitalize. Okay, but you still have a choice to capitalize on what? Being greedy and just making money and just cutting jobs left and right and automating everything so people are literally now left in a lurch? Or are you really about to be in this age of Aquarius with higher frequencies, with leadership, with innovation, and with teacher energy? Aquarius can be a teacher because Aquarius brings back these innovations and also can be trusted to teach how to use this in what? In service to what? The community. No technology, no policy, no none of these things should be used as a weapon against, right? So if we are receiving all these lovely innovations, for using this example, but we're not in that divine consciousness energy, if we're not carrying that frequency, if that heart chakra isn't up in an atom doing something, I don't know, throbbing, I don't know, then we're going to see all of these wonderful things that Spirit has given us be misused in service to what the child of God, all of the creations of God are not, just to make certain people money, influence, whatever, to feed their vices. And so this is why Spirit is saying, if you want to be a new earth leader and be a part of that, there are many roles that you can play, but it's very important. Everybody must get into themselves and disconnect from what is not so that they can connect to what they are. And so that once they remember what they are, they can understand what they're entitled to. And once they understand what they're entitled to, they can see the BS coming a mile away. They can see what is out of alignment in this world. And then they can see all the people who move to the tune of what is out of alignment, right? And then they can continue to elevate their own consciousness and be vibrational matches to solutions that are coming into the Earth's atmosphere through what? Through people like you who have received the consciousness that is at a level to receive it. This is how you get to be a way shower. This is how you get to be an inventor. This is how you get to be a great policymaker. This is how you get to be a physician in service to mankind. This is how you get to be an environmentalist that actually cares about the environment. So this is calling for higher functioning vision, but you have to be able to hold that vision. And in order to do that, you want to practice your spiritual hygiene and basic psychic self-defense. The most basic that you can practice is, I know what I am. I recognize that whatever is going on here, whatever this person said to me or tried to put on me or whatever, and there's emotion that's coming up, these thoughts that are coming up, they're not in alignment. So I recognize it as being a circumstance that's here, but I understand it doesn't define me, and I don't need to entertain it any longer than it takes to clear it. Because if something is throbbing within you, it means that there's something within you that needs to be healed. In other words, if something is poking at you, it means that you have a belief that's embedded somewhere that you've got to get to, and to, along with spirit, this higher perception, dispel it and clear it so that you can be more open to what? More of your energy, more of source energy, more of your God energy, God consciousness, divine consciousness, universal energy flow, your chi, whatever you want to call it, all of this, right? So visionary leaders are needed right now. But to be a visionary leader, so to speak, You've got to be as best as you can good at knowing you are and what is true, even and especially in the face of all of the evidence that you see outside of you. A lot of it is BS. Oh, you would be surprised how much of it you can cut through in your own life just by shifting your mindset. And when you cut through and you shift your mindset, you simplify things. You're no longer caught up in all this extra drama in your family or in your community or in your local institutions or in the world, or you're not caught up in all that. It's things become simple. And because you've cleared up a lot of that stuff, you're now able to access and process a lot more that can be meaningful. And then you can start following through. You can go back into the quote unquote world with right vision and actually lend a hand that is meaningful. But you must know that as you move through the space, as you navigate the world with that higher consciousness, that higher frequency, you're a beacon and you will exude that energy. And many people may not want to, have you around because you're now in opposition in many ways to the status quo. But that's not for everybody. And that's not always the case. There are many things you can do. It could be simply that you have an idea, whereas before you didn't. And that idea is, wow, why don't I start a little library section, a new section in our local library? Let me breathe life back into our library. I noticed a lot of kids are hanging out over blah, 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 but I realize it's really because they just don't have a space to go. So why don't I go to the local library and see about creating a section for this age range, tweens, or I don't know, they can charge their phones, or maybe that's too much, I don't know, right? We can have speakers come by, we can put extra classes so kids have a place to go after school while parents are at work. We can do a donation drive to stock our little pantry so people have little snacks and food on hand, right? These are the things that we need to be able to push through the people on earth who want to help build this new frequency. Okay. Now, that was a long-winded way to say all that, but oh God, just let it go, let it go. Just hopefully it's coming out the way it needs to. But I want to talk a little bit about this new consciousness in a more grounded way, in a sense. Well, not grounded. All of that was talking about how you serve yourself, and in serving yourself, your higher self, you are able to serve your community and become a conduit. But this consciousness grid, if you have heard of it, some of you may have heard of it. Well, first of all, on the planet, like this card is so randomly, not randomly, but it's like on the planet. Ding, ding, ding. Look at us learning. On the planet, we have a grid. Well, we already know the longitudinal, latitudinal grid. We know that, right? We get it. But what I'm talking about, what, electromagnetic grid? I don't know, whatever, right? We're talking about a different type of grid. We can call it a consciousness grid, right? So this consciousness grid is basically a grid of all these ideas and contexts, and consciousness is basically for the collective consciousness. It's what characterizes the consciousness that exists on this planet, right? But here's the thing. When we're talking about ushering in a new earth, quote unquote, again, recognizing that we're just using that as a placeholder, let's say higher frequency vibrations of earth, a higher version of the earth, we're also talking about activating a higher consciousness grid. Now, some of you may have already heard of this consciousness grid. It's called the Christ consciousness grid. Again, if you follow this channel, you know we are not religious because we move, although I do anyway, but we're moved, these channelings are not going to be rooted in any one religion, even though there's vocabulary overlap. So we're never going to be working from the bottom up, meaning using terms and definitions as defined by man. We're not doing that here. So when we're talking about the Christ consciousness, we're going from top down. So as spirit is defining that, the Christ consciousness refers to the true perception of what we talked about as the one self, right? When we look from the highest point, when we look down, there's only one self. So one, right? But down here in this level of experience, where we're falling deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into misperceptions, to the point that on this spectrum of perception, we are now in the really false perceptions as opposed to truer perception, right? We're going to see super division down here, super division, super multiplicity, chaos, everything. But the higher up in frequency we go, the higher and self-awareness, the more conscious you become of what? Of yourself, of what you are. And the more you do that, the more you're healing your perceptions. And these old ideas are being revealed to be unreal. They don't exist. Down here, they super look like they exist. But the higher up we go, they don't exist. And you want to know how, just a quick example to understand that concept. Think about yourself. Think about a time in your life or somebody that you know where you're like telling the story. Yeah, well, he said this and she said that, and blah, 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 or just whatever. And then flash forward to when another time where maybe after you've done healing or you've heard other parts of the story, you've heard other facts, or you like whatever. Now, when you tell the story about it, you're telling it in a different way. And you may even say, well, I don't even know why I thought that was the case. Like I could have sworn that he meant blah, blah, blah when he said this. I didn't even know that when he said this, blah, 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 that he was actually talking about A, B, C, and D. And how would I have known? Because like his grandmother had just passed away. And so he was kind of thinking about that when we were having this conversation. He didn't mention that to me. So I thought that he meant, right? And so now you're looking back and you're like, whoa, what was I on? And then not only did you realize that you were seeing things so wrong, but you probably like lashed out, you made lots of people hurt, you ruined some friendships, all sorts of, you know how we roll on this planet. And then now, not only that, but now you're changing your view of things. You're like, wow, I realize looking back that I was actually the aggressor there, and that I was coming into that conversation with such a negative view and like unreal view. And I was just still caught up in reeling from my ex and this and that. I didn't even like, wow, I hope this person forgives me. Right. So just showing you, and that could happen even overnight. If you get a piece of information overnight and the next day you're like, holy moly. And you wake up with that dreaded feeling like, whoa, I was so out of line yesterday. I have to get back to this person and apologize. Or wow, I have to change my life, right? Whatever it is. What we're saying is perceptions change. And the reason why perceptions are occurring in the first place is because we don't know everything. In this realm of perception, which is along a spectrum of false perception, all the way up in consciousness to true perception, right? The difference is in self-awareness. The more you are healing your perceptions of self, the more you're healing your idea of your self-worth and value, the more you're letting more of yourself in. It's literally self-acceptance. The more self-denying you are, aka living in the I am not and buying into what you're not, the more you will devolve into self-denial, into false perception. So as you heal, your frequency is raising, your vibration is raising, your awareness is raising, and you're better able to see not only yourself, but outside of you, because your vision clears up, because the BS, all the false stuff is being thrown out. And so when we talk about the level of Christ consciousness, all that means is that you are back at your level of consciousness where you are properly perceiving of yourself. When you're properly perceiving of yourself at that time, it is a state of oneness that you're perceiving. Because when you look at your brothers and sisters on the planet, notice the language has changed. Now it's brothers and sisters on the planet. It's not like Billy, Bobby, and Madeline. No, when you look at other people and other beings, you see oneness. You recognize yourself as the light aspect of the divine, and you recognize everybody else as the same thing. It's the whole namaste. The light in me recognizes the light in you. Lots of people are hitting that namaste down here, but not a lot of recognition is going on, right? By the time you're at that level of Christ consciousness where you have healed all of these distortions, that you've been carrying over time and space, lifetime after lifetime. Now, this takes place over millions of years, by the way, many lifetimes. But when you get back to there as a collective, right? That's what we can refer to. And it's a religious term, but it's not a religious term. It's the second coming of the Christ. It means, hey, just keep it simple. Hey, yeah, so at some point we were all able to recognize ourselves. Oh, yeah, it's just as one. It's just one self, one consciousness, one point in perspective. Then a thought occurred, and that's a hypothetical. What if? Boom. That what if is enough to create a whole universe. Why? Because when God has a thought, everything, it's instantaneous. It's not like, hey, I was having this thought. Can we like put a group together and let's talk about it? And no, it just, and so it is. There is no delay, right? And so at some point there was a creative impulse to create. A creative impulse is to create. It's to give birth. It's to create, to extend, right? So at some point this it's just the I am. It's just isness. And then what if I was not? Boom. Well, the correct term is if I were not, because it's a subjunctive word, but anyway, what if I were not? And then we have this I am not perception. So just that creative impulse was enough to do what? Create or make the realm of perception. There's knowing, that's ultimate reality. And then there is, and at ultimate reality, there's knowing. It's just knowing. That's the level of omniscience. Everything is known. That's the level of spirit. It's just everything, all there is. That's it. There's no question, there's no whatever. But the minute a creative impulse comes up, now is going to be this hypothetical space. So let's just call it moving forward the realm of perception. Now, why is that? Well, simply stated, because one of the properties of ultimate reality is unchangingness. It is, and that's it. The creator just is. It just is. When that thought pops up, then we've got I keep wanting to say creation, but then we've got this birth of what is not, right? It's the hypothetical space. It's moving from what is reality, but because reality never changes, it doesn't change. Change and time and space and all of those things are not properties of true reality. They're properties of perceived reality. They're properties of a hypothetical reality. And so we've got this reality, and then we've got that creative impulse, and that creative impulse is a hypothetical one. So it's a what if I were not, and from that is birthed over time and space from our level of perception in this realm of perception where we have time and space. We will observe that as expansion of a field, of a time field and a space field. Why? Because now we've got reflection. If there's just one point and there's no thought, there's no whatever, it's just isness. But that awakening moment, I am. But what if I were not? Gives way to a hypothetical dream space where the I am source is doing what? Observing what? Itself. That's why now we have this 2-point perspective. What does 2-point perspective allow us to do? To observe. It's observing. I'm observing myself. And so when we talk about this concept of spiritual evolution, it is really another lovely way of saying a process of self-rediscovery, where the source is having a temporary and unreal experience of observing itself. And in this embodied level, it is a process that allows source to experience itself in an embodied way. At every dimension, Source is able to engage with itself in another way. In this third dimension, it's an embodied engagement, right? And so, um, what I'm trying to say is that we have ultimate reality, and that's it. That's the only thing that's real. So, when you remember what you must go back to what you are. Right now, in this cute little temporary space, you're just a cute little personality. You're an aspect of the divine. You're a drop in the ocean. You're whatever we want to say. It's so cute, by the way. I just want to hug it, right? You're a little guy. But actually, your reality, you don't exist. Who's Janelle? Who this? Who's Bunny? Who's all the what's a tree? These are symbols. They're not real. They're symbols in the dream space. They're placeholders for us to interact, right? The reality is that's it. All that is. But when we enter the dream space, it's a hypothetical space. So when you down here in this third dimensional space doing your thing, when you're like, oh, I know thyself, I'm just trying to live a better life, I'm just trying to help people, just trying to whatever, or I just want to explore my hobbies, or I just want to sleep. I don't know what people are doing these days, right? Or all three. Wow, all three. Let's do it. Right? You 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 must remember when you really are getting back on your journey of self discovery and awakening, which just means waking up to and becoming more aware of what you truly are, you're moving up in this spectrum of perception over time, over lifetimes, over long time. And you're choosing to do it through what do you call it? Incarnations, right? Some people come back lifetime after lifetime, they don't learn anything. Sometimes they fall even more into confusion. And so that's one of the things that we come here to teach so that people can orient themselves back towards what right-mindedness. So the goal is for the soul to get back to the level of consciousness that is their true consciousness, their right-mindedness. That is the Christ consciousness. So let's put that into perspective with ultimate reality. Ultimate reality is just isness. It's eternal. It's unchanging, cannot be distorted. So when we're seeing change, all of this stuff, we know we're in the dream space. It's one, it's not duality. There's no black, white, up, down, in, out, tall, short, yes, no. Polarity is not there. These are not properties of all that is, of ultimate reality. It's just one huge consciousness. And so we often hear that being referred to as the mind of God, the Godhead, right? And everything is occurring within this mind. There's no separation. Where would you go? I am, and there is no other. That's ultimate reality. There's nowhere else to go. And in fact, when you start to understand this ultimate reality, you also know it's timeless. So it's literally existing outside of this false matrix, which we can refer to as a universal time matrix. It's outside of it. All these dimensions outside of it, right? Outside in a sense like it's larger than. And on top of that, all these dimension stuff, they don't exist, right? So basically ultimate reality, and within that ultimate reality, we've got perceived reality. It's a dream space, it's hypothetical reality, and that's where we as a collective consciousness are. But what is it? It's one self. There's the Father, so you can speak, or the, whatever, this is our own language, right? But it's ultimate reality, and then there's, boom, a step down. We'd say a step down, meaning where there's a loss of full consciousness, meaning there's a loss of knowing. That's all that's happened. There's no fall in consciousness and you're a horrible person and you're this and that and into the evil. No, it's just, hey, when we step down in consciousness, there is a forgetting of self. That initial forgetting of self was intentional because there was this desire, creative impulse. Oh, what if? And then what was born? What came into immediate creation? Because there's no time, there's no time between the thought and the creation there, right? That immediate creation is one creation, it's one entity, to use a word. And that is what we refer to as the Christ consciousness. Now, what is ultimate reality? It's consciousness. And so, what is its step down? The Christ consciousness. It's the quote unquote son of what? God. God, all that is, everything, right? Then one step down, it is one entity, one creation. There's one creation that was created, and that is what we refer to as the Son of God. This has nothing to do with religion. So if you're hearing religion, please, please, please put it aside for this conversation, right? There's the Son of God, S-O-N of God. And we're just using the language because we're here in English and the world is patriarchal. It has been for a while, whatever we want to call it. There's no gender that we need to even be thinking about here. Just for the sake of discussion, we're using the discursive term, the Son of God. But you can also think of it as the initial creation here. But it's one. And it's just one. And so when the Creator looks upon it, it sees one. Now, at this level of consciousness, this is true perception. It doesn't get any better than this. This is the realm of perception in its wholeness, being experienced as whole. Anything after that is omniscience, because now we're slipping back into full awareness. But for the sake of this experiment, remember, spirit was overriding my words when I was talking, or over speaking me in the last video. And I forgot what I was trying to say. I don't remember, but they were saying experiment, experiment, experiment. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And I called it to your attention, guys, if you're listening. So there's source or creator, or whatever you want to call it, had this thought, what if, and it was a hypothetical. It's only hypothetical because what is cannot change. Okay, so that is now this hypothetical creation, this entity. Now we have 2 points of perspective. One where this entity can view this entity, which is source, by the way, but inside of itself. it's like a step down in consciousness. Let me go deeper. Let me take a little light nap, right? A little sleep. But now source can experience and observe itself because we have 2 points of perspective. Now, with this realm of perception, which we refer to as the Son of God or the Christ consciousness, it's just called the Christ consciousness because it is the highest level of perception we can have. It is the truest form of perception. It is right-mindedness, where we're seeing, if you're at this level of consciousness, if you've reclaimed this level of consciousness, and you, number one, won't be on this planet right now. I just want to put that there for you. But you will look around and see no one, just yourself and God, right? Because there's only one other to observe. And as you can imagine, this breeds its own little experiment. Yes, I want to say experience, I keep saying experiment. So it's going, okay, well, let's see, for whatever their motivation was, they wanted to see something. Hopefully they'll tell us at some point, but maybe that's for when we get more under our belt. I don't know. But at some point, there is another fall in consciousness. Again, I was saying fall in consciousness, and they corrected me yesterday, or like, traveling. I was like, huh? They're like, don't even use those words, baby girl. They didn't say it that way. I said it. They didn't say it that way. They said it not fall in consciousness because they know how we use that on this planet. And the whole fallen angels and the blah, 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 we're not even looking at that, right? They're saying what it is a better term and more true, a term that comes from a more true perception, meaning that it's a term that we didn't just generate from this low consciousness, but from higher up in the realm of perception, higher up, closer to right-mindedness. We would replace this word fall in consciousness with inundation with misperceptions, inundation with false perception. Hold on, let me plug my computer in. Bring the whole thing down. Oh boy. Yeah, so anyway, sorry, back. Yeah, it's not a fallen consciousness or the fall, all of that. It's more neutrally, because remember, the higher up you go, the more out of these highly emotionally charged judgmental language patterns we use. We'll say that it was a stepping down, right? And then as we started to continue to experiment in these levels of consciousness, these step down levels of consciousness, we understand that we're no longer in the realm of knowing, so we're in the realm of perception. And so you're liable to make all sorts of mistakes because you're seeing from partial vision. But eventually, over time, we started to believe too much in the reality of these false perceptions. We were getting too much, too deeply. We were progressing too deep in the mind, and we were mislearning all sorts of things. And because remember, in the realm of perception, you're not working with reality, you're working with symbols and signs and representations and concepts and things. And these things, it's so easy for you to forget what you are. And over time, people, it's just here we are. And it's so dense now that we've taken on a body, and people are killing each other because they just can't even recognize they're the same person. They can't even recognize, some people can't, some people struggle to even see the next person as a human because of their skin color or their gender or their accent or speak English or whatever. People are so ridiculous. But anyway, I get it. We get it. This is what we're here to help heal, to get rid of all these false concepts, because we're a long way down that spectrum. So we're no longer awake or at the level of ultimate reality anymore. We are in the realm of perception, and mankind, or let's say, not even say mankind, creation has been in the realm of perception for a very long time. And there was just a continuous inundation, instead, me not saying fallen consciousness, but a continuous inundation of false perceptions, and believing in those false perceptions, taking it as real. And then because of what we are, we're creator beings, we're just making all sorts of stuff for ourselves, experiencing and having pain, and believing that the pain that we're feeling is real, and that and it's because we're losers, and carrying on with guilt and all sorts of stuff. It was a free fall. Let's put it that way. And Spirit is saying that the reason why it's an inundation of false perception is because the reality has not shifted. In reality, it's just is. Nothing's